everyone, and welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show, the show where you can call in and argue with some trans people and tell us to our faces that we don't exist, and we will instantly just cry and block you because we cannot argue back, or we will embarrass you in front of everyone who is watching. So why don't you call in and find out which of those two things will happen today? This week you can talk to the super sweaty and horrible Katy Montgomerie because it is 1 million degrees here and it's really humid, or the less sweaty and equally horrible
Aron Ra, but I'm only not sweaty because I haven't gone outside. I think it's 101 degrees outside right now, so that's good fun.
Oh, what in fake degrees? I don't know what that even is.
It's like 40 something probably.
38. Okay, yeah, well, that's like 8 degrees hotter than it is here, but it's super humid here. So
That's fair. Yeah, humidity sucks.
And we don't have aircon. Anyway, this is the first time I've done this show in quite a while, actually. So I'm excited to be back. And it's the first time I've talked to you in ages, Arden. How are you doing? How's things?
Things are good. Things are mildly stressful. Matt and I, our reptile business that we've been working on for over a year, we're officially launching in October. We're doing hopefully our first vending at our first shows, and we're going to be finally opening up for sales. So there's like so much to do before the end of the month, but it's all really exciting and good stuff. And I'm so thrilled. We've had so many babies hatching. It's very exciting, but it is, it's stressful starting a business. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's a lot of responsibility you're suddenly taking on, but it's good stuff. So we're very excited. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What's been up with you? What's new?
Well, as I was telling Arden just before the show, I sat down like 2 minutes before the show started in a crazy rush because the McDonald's Pokemon card promotion finishes today at midnight. So I just went to McDonald's and bought 4 Happy Meals to complete the set.
Amazing.
So probably the lamest thing you've ever heard in your life is what I've been up to. Well, that's only today. I don't know. I've pretty much done nothing else. But I do have one really exciting thing, which is this Saturday, for the first time ever, I'm going to go kayaking. So that should be exciting.
Kayaking is good fun. That's cool.
Yeah. I can't swim, but it'll be fun. Anyway, today is the 7th of September, and you can call in. I should have done that at the start, but I'm getting it now. You can call in on +1 720 619 2288, or you can go to the description below the YouTube video and call in by clicking on the thingy there, and then it's free. We still have a few spaces on the line, and we will prioritize you, even if you're like full-on raging transphobic, or if you're just like, I'm not transphobic, but, or if you just have some concerns, like, you will get picked above everyone else, and I'm sorry, everyone else. You can call in with other things, but we like the spicy callers, and we haven't had any. Well, I haven't had any spicy callers for a little while, so I'm ready for them. And the other way you can participate in the show, if you are either a fan of the show or you are too scared to call in, you can send a super chat of $5 or more, and then we will read it out at the end. And that's always a fun time because everyone votes for me with the hashtag Team Katy or a hashtag Team McDonald's Happy Meal promotion ends out of 11:59 tonight, and that's all one hashtag, by the way. And then I win, and Arden has to write a poem about me. So that'll be good times.
Okay, deal. Yeah, before we get rolling onto the poll, I wanted to mention. Aaron Reed, who we've had on the show, posted a link to a study that was published today in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So, one of the biggest associations of doctors in the U.S., with the first ever randomized trial, control trial on trans healthcare. Now, there are things to complain about the design, namely the length of time that they measured the results after. But unsurprisingly, the results of this study fall almost square in the middle of what we've seen in almost every trial previously. Australia has a 3-month waiting period as their standards of care when people initiate treatment. And so they used to ethically conduct this study, they used the normative treatment, and then they gave half of their participants randomly an immediate treatment, testosterone specifically. So these were transmasculine, non-binary people and trans men. who received this care, and there was like a 55% reduction in suicidality and just all the normal numbers that you usually see that we've talked about so many times in every other study on this channel. So it's really fascinating that one of the points of contention amongst a lot of bigots is that not unlike many treatment options for many different things across the medical community, but transition care hadn't had a randomized control study because it's pretty unethical and difficult to conduct an ethical study doing that. You would have to deny people care for an extremely long period of time. But with the study design, they were able to get at least some information. And unsurprisingly, yeah, the data showed, again, gender affirming care works. And yeah, so it's just really exciting to see, again, the study's not perfect, obviously, but very few studies are. So I think there's still good information we can take from that.
So the reason why, I guess, certainly and I would assume pretty much every trans person or trans activist isn't worried about these studies coming out is because people like to say, oh, they don't have enough people, oh, they're not for long enough. And like, you can always say that about any study, unless it's a study on every single person on Earth, it could always have more people. Unless it's run since the beginning of time, it could always be longer. And anyone who's wanting to criticize the study is always going to go to those things. And sometimes they are real concerns. The thing is, there have been like hundreds of studies on trans people. And generally, when they're run by people who want to wipe us out, they have to massively manipulate the data, and then it doesn't really show what they're trying to say anyway, and it's all just a load of garbage. And when it's not, it comes out, if you do it all these different ways, just generally pointing in the same direction, and it has done for decades. So even if you were to be like, oh, none of the 100 previous studies are good enough for me, even though they all show there's a detransition rate, but like around 1% or whatever, the last 100 studies, this one's not long enough, this one's only from 100 people or whatever. If all of that is still evidence, right? Even if you did a study on one person, that is still itself evidence. Even though you couldn't draw any conclusions from one person, is at least one data point that you could then use in some big meta study. Even if you had 1,000 one-person studies, maybe you could start drawing a pattern. But it's all still evidence, and it would be really weird if you did the most in-depth study yet, and then it said something totally different to all of the other decades worth of studies. So, I mean, the more we do on these, you could, if you're transphobic or I have just some concerns or whatever garbage position you describe yourself as having, you could say, oh, well, this one is only 3 months, or, oh, there was only how many hundred people in it. Like, yeah, but this is yet another small piece of evidence to add to the mountaining up piles of other evidence, which are all little small pieces of evidence, which are all adding together. And there is absolutely none showing the opposite transphobic position, like we need to do conversion therapy, being trans is a mental illness, etc., etc. So, that's worth pointing out, because of course, like, people watching this who argue for trans rights, you're gonna find this study, you're gonna link it to someone in an argument online, and they're gonna be like, so this one only has 158 participants or whatever it is. And they can do that to any one study ever about anything. So it's just worth pointing out that there's like a million studies.
Yeah, and there are different things that make a study strong, like randomized control. You can have a smaller participant pool with a better methodology, and that can still be a strong study, even though it has a small participant pool. But I did link it in chat, and it's worth mentioning that it was released today. I haven't read through the whole thing, but I think it's worth checking out, and it is really interesting. Again, just published today, further confirmation of the direction things are already indicating. Go ahead.
Yeah. And just before we move on, so at the start, Arden mentioned it can be unethical to do a double-blind randomized trial. And if you're someone who's not really thought about healthcare, especially trans people's healthcare before, and you know about science, and you're like, oh, well, double randomized trials is how you should do anything. You imagine the ideal trial, which is there's 1,000 people who have a sore throat, and you give 500 of them sugar pill and 500 of them a medicine, and then there's a clear difference between the two groups, and they don't know which group they're in, and then you can say, oh, well, this pill now works better than the placebo. Like that's like what you think of in a randomized trial. And you'll often see transphobic people saying, why haven't they done a randomized trial for transition? And there's a few reasons. One is, the big one is, transition actually, like, you couldn't do a randomized trial, a double-blind trial of, say, genital surgery, because when you wake up, you know if you've had genital. Like,
I wonder which group
impossible.
I was in.
Yeah. And it's the same with hormones. Like, even if you give hormones, if you, like, especially when it's done on, like, trans men, if you give them hormones, even if they were like, oh, I think I'm in the group, and they've got the placebo, and they start, like, I don't know what you could say, or they start thinking they have darker hairs on their face, or they start thinking they have a lower voice. When their voices break, or when they actually grow a beard, you know which group you're in. Like, there's no dodging around this. But then the other thing is the ethics. Like, what you could do is get 100 trans people and deny 50 of them medication for the rest of their lives and study them compared to 50 you didn't deny. But the thing is, we already have a load of evidence suggesting that the healthcare is the right thing to do. So what you're really doing there is denying people healthcare. Like, if you had, you're like, right, okay, we think, we've shown this cancer treatment works in other conditions, or it works in mice, and it's looking promising, and our sort of initial trials are working and stuff. Now we have 100 people who are going to die unless they get this treatment, and we're not sure for certain that it's like the perfect treatment, or there's some questions still, and we want to do a trial. You can't just then be like, oh, we're just not going to give it to 50 of them, because like, it actually affects people's lives when you already have good reason to believe it works. So yeah, that's why you can't always do double-blind trials for everything. So it's worth bearing in mind. Anyway,
right.
Shall we do the polls? I'm keen to get on the polls, so let's run through the polls.
Okay, so last week's poll was... hold on, I gotta put down that banner. Is it transphobic to vote Republican in the U.S.? Only 64% said yes, and 36% said no. And I gotta be honest, this shocks me from our audience. Based on what I read on the comments, my impression of the reason that this is because people misinterpreted this poll. Most of the responses were something to the effect of people aren't inherently transphobic because they vote for a person within a party whose platform may be transphobic. But the question didn't ask, are Republican voters transphobic people? It was, is it transphobic to vote Republican? This is a condemnation of the action of voting for Republicans. And in that case, I don't know how you could argue no when their platform is explicitly transphobic.
I guess it's harder to argue this, like, what's the word where you argue the side you don't believe in?
Steel manning?
Devil's advocate, that's what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
It's harder to argue this devil's advocate position in 2023, but certainly in, like, 2020. Or maybe even 2016, when it was still very obvious to me. A lot of people would have had no idea what their Republicans' position on trans rights were. And you could have probably guessed it if you knew anything. But maybe you just don't know about LGBT stuff at all and you don't care. Not that you don't care because, like, who gives a crap about LGBT people? But, like, you just know nothing about it. No one in your life has talked to you about it, and that's it. Then you could say that, well, you could either be, if you were aware of their position and you voted for them anyway, that's a transphobic action potentially. But if you just had no idea, I mean, I feel like now transphobia is like one of the main things of the right wing. So how could you possibly not know? But I guess the other point is, and maybe this would make more sense in the UK than in the US, but if I said, is it transphobic to vote? Like, when you say, is it transphobic to vote for Republican in the US, the other two options you have are voting Democrat or not voting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you're given the choice of vote Conservative, vote Labour, or don't vote in the UK, I mean, Labour are transphobic too. So maybe the people have, like, well, it is to vote Republican, but it also is to vote Democrat. I don't know. Maybe that's the position they were, because I don't know. The Democrats aren't super, are they? But they're better than Labour. But
it would still be yes, though. Like, even if you're like, well, both parties are transphobic, it's like, okay, maybe that's true, but that still doesn't mean it's not transphobic to vote Republican. It still would be. And yeah, I mean, some people would defend the third option for voting, but don't vote third option. It's so stupid.
Yeah. So I don't know. And I guess the final position, if you theoretically had, say, the Republicans were actually good on something. Let's say they were the least racist party, because that was true at one point in history, I think. And you were like, well, okay, I accept that they're anti-trans, but I think that this other issue is more important to me. I guess you could say, well, I guess it kind of is, but that's not the reason I'm voting. I don't know. I just think that 64% is low. Should be 100. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I find this, it's interesting. I do wonder if maybe we got hit with a bunch of voters who are not in our typical demographic, which is the point of the polls. They have a much broader reach for some reason than in the algorithm than videos. So maybe we got a lot of non-typical TACUS viewers voting on this poll. But regardless, that was last week's poll, and this week we have. Do you want to read this one?
You went with this one?
Yeah.
Okay. I came up with this as a joke. Do you think spending... This is not about anyone in particular. This is just a general comment about living in 2023. Do you think spending $45 billion to destroy a social media platform because it turned your daughter trans is big brain alpha male behavior? So yeah, this might be about someone. Recently in an interview, Elon Musk said that at least part of the reason that he bought and destroyed Twitter was because his trans daughter was trans and also became a communist. So
And somehow that's Twitter's fault.
So the thing is, I there's another thing that I think was another reason, which was the Babylon Bee, which is quite possibly the least funny thing ever created on Earth. They got banned for being transphobic from Twitter, and then he was in all outrage about that. And then when he took over on Twitter, one of the first things he said was comedy is legal again, and like he unbanned the Babylon Bee. Mm-hmm. Which is also a transphobia thing. So I do feel like transphobia was at least part of the motivation for him destroying his reputation, his legacy, his income, probably the best/worst social media platform. It's trans people melts people's brains.
It does. We got one comment already that I think is the funniest, where they said, well, big brain alpha male is code for childish douchebag. So yes, he is totally a big brained alpha male move. No,
that's true. Okay, yeah.
We invite the trolly responses on some of these polls. Some of them are more serious than others. You just got to use your noggin and figure out which ones are which.
I'm just hoping that any other people with $45 billion who are scrolling through our social tab might learn from the results and be put off doing it in future. It's an important poll, I think, for the future of humanity. Anyway, let's do some calls.
Yeah.
Do you have any that you're eyeing up already?
I think the first one could be interesting, and they've been on the line the longest. So let's bring in Simon in Germany. And there are actually two Simons from Germany on the line. So if you hear that, we're talking about the first one, not the second one. Hi, Simon. What's up?
Yeah, so my first question is, what is the difference between sex and gender?
Ooh.
The classic. This is like you could go away and read some like feminism or PhD theses or whatever on this. But I guess the general gist of it is, what I would say if I was going to write it, try and fit it all in one tweet or something, would be sex is the bits of your body, and gender is has more than one meaning, and it either means stuff that we have attributed to men and women, like clothes and hairstyles, and also how men and women should or do act, and then also can also mean how people view themselves or how they feel their brain matches up with their sex, I guess you could say. Maybe some people would describe it like that. That's what I would go with if I was doing a short version. What would you say, Arden?
I think I would say mostly the same thing. I don't know. I might have used slightly different words, but it would convey the exact same idea. Yeah, I think it's important to make sure we know what definition of gender we're talking about when we're differentiating sex from gender. But I agree with both of those uses.
Not in like we need an exact definition and then we compare to the exact definition argument, but more like when people say gender, sometimes they literally just mean sex, as in the bits of your body. Sometimes they mean like sorry, one sec. Sometimes they mean like things like girls should like pink, which is garbage. And then sometimes they mean like I'm a trans person and I am a man or I am a woman. So or a cis person too. But anyway, yeah, go for it, Simon.
Okay, so my third question in here is what's a transgender person? As you explained, it's like gender expression, how you dress, how your manners are, but why are then trans people taking the opposite sex hormones and all? Like, that's pretty strange for me, like the old outdated.
Yeah, so Simon, I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to interrupt Simon, because literally the whole point of us distinguishing the two different definitions of gender was to avoid this exact problem. You just said if gender is just what you wear in your mannerisms, then why are you taking cross-sex hormones? Well, that's because we specifically accounted for gender is not. There are two different uses of the word gender. Gender sometimes refers to gender identity, right? At least gender sometimes refers to gender identity, which is the deeply held internal sense of one's body in relation to these gender norms and your sex and pulling all those things together. And then there is the roles and expectations, the clothes, the mannerisms. Those two things are distinct.
Okay. So
I guess to answer your question directly, Simon, and to maybe pretend am I still on? Mine's frozen.
Yep. No, you're
still hear me,
on,
Aden.
You're on this end.
Oh,
seems like Katy can't hear us. Hopefully she can refresh.
Oh,
there we go. Okay, you're back.
Okay, sorry. To answer I don't know what happened there. To answer your question directly, Simon, and pretending we hadn't answered the previous one, the reason trans people take hormones is to address dysphoria. The reason, like, if you have an issue with your sex characteristics, you change them, basically.
gender dysphoria, right?
Well, you could call it gender dysphoria, or you could call it sex dysphoria, or you could just say dysphoria to avoid the confusion. But the thing is, if you are distressed by one set of genitals and would be happier with the other set, then it doesn't matter what the definitions of sex and gender are. Like, there's all just like academic nonsense. The reality is that we know from doing a load of science that there is a certain group of humans that we can quite accurately predict based on a whole number of different diagnostic criteria who are going to benefit from changing their genitals up, doing a bit of a switcheroo. And that doesn't matter if sex and gender are different, the same, don't have a definition, whether they do. Like, who cares? They're doing it because we know it makes their lives better. Right?
Yeah. So my second question in like that I have written, what is a lesbian? As like a laughing room is
women
one,
who's only into women.
Explanation.
Yeah.
And the other is that is like kind of a contradiction is we say same-sex attraction, like to men, like my boyfriend, for example, and then halt to room, like someone I know, like it's same-sex attraction, not same gender attraction.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I guess if you take a step out of the like trans wars or whatever you want to call them, turf wars, if you want to like talk to people who haven't totally melted their brain on this subject already, lots of them are just going to say sex and gender are the same thing, or they don't really know the difference. And when you say same-sex attraction, they're like, oh yeah, you just mean a gay person. When you say same gender attraction, they're like, oh yeah, you just mean a gay person. They don't care. And then when it comes to trans people, how they might describe themselves, I mean, I would assume that most trans people, if they're not aware that they're talking to some gender critical wacko who's using it as a dog whistle, they would say they were same-sex attracted. If you said, if there was a gay trans man and you asked him, who are you into? And he's like, oh, just into men. And you'd be like, oh, you're a same-sex attracted gay trans man or whatever. And you're just like, yeah, cool, whatever. because that's just how people use the words. But gender critical people, and I'm not saying this is you, have tried to come up with this. They're trying to create this like dichotomy between people who are attracted to sex and people who are attracted to gender, as if they are like two totally different separate types of persons, but also as if sex and gender themselves are both binary, or at least sex is, and unchangeable. And so then they end up with this kind of category system where someone is either same-sex attracted or opposite-sex attracted or same-gender attracted or opposite. And it's just nonsense. Like, people are attracted to a whole host of things on a person. They're attracted to, for sure, like certain sex characteristics. Maybe all of their sex characteristics, maybe not. They might be attracted to their genitals or not. That might not factor into their attraction at all. There's a whole range of things, but that also includes things like behaviors, mannerisms, presentation, how well they fit into or don't fit into various social roles. Like, that does affect people's attraction. So like, both of those things affect most people's sexual orientation to some degree, or factor into it to some degree. And really the argument here, this whole kind of like fiasco is basically straight men getting in a stress because they say, is it gay to be attracted to a trans woman? And it's not. Not because I think that's offensive or because gay people, are worse or anything ridiculous like that. It's just the reality is that, like, if you're attracted to women and you see someone who looks like a woman, then you might be attracted to her. And like, if you look at how straight men act with trans women, that like they are the ones who are attracted to us. And if you look at the statistics on Pornhub, I mean, all of the porn sites, I can't remember what it was, but they announced at some point that they moved the category of trans women from the gay category to the straight category or whatever, and saw all the videos get loads more views, which just makes sense. And also, from my own experience and from the experiences of other trans women that I've talked to, it's absolutely not gay men who are attracted to us.
Yeah.
But obviously there is a confusing gray area because transition both moves, you sometimes move from one end to the other, or sometimes you stop in the middle or whatever. It just gets more complicated, and then just reality is it's not binary, but we're just doing our best to describe these things because it's complicated, isn't it? So.
The only thing I really want to add to that is that I think that's all true from like a semantic and like real world point of view, but I also think as an observation from my experience with queer culture, there are a lot of people who I know who are non-binary that maybe identified as lesbian before they found out they were trans and have a deep attachment to the lesbian community and still tend to date primarily lesbian people. And that's why I've also seen even Johns Hopkins University. I'm not saying because Johns Hopkins University defines lesbian this way, that means that that's what it should be. But I'm saying I've seen an active use. Yeah, no, a non-man attracted to non-man is an active use of lesbian that is like regularly used. I wouldn't say it's the majority, but I've seen it used a lot. And I know a lot of queer folk who that is their experience of lesbianism and queer culture. And I don't think that's necessarily invalid either.
Yeah, and I think, it's good to try and come up with definitions for this kind of thing, but just so we can talk about them, I'm going to do my classic. There's only really two reasons I care for definitions or what labels people have. And that's either because they're my friend and they're telling me about their life and I'm learning about them, in which case, yeah, cool. I'll tell describe yourself. It's part of communication, innit? Like, that's what humans do. Or the other reason is if I'm fighting for equality for people who are facing irrational prejudice. And like, some people seem to want to draw this like these strict, people get stressed when there aren't strict boxes, apparently. That's basically what a lot of transphobia and homophobia is.
Does that.
Yeah, so, I understand people who want to box things, but real world is proper messy and confusing. And the best we can do is try and come up with words which communicate general patterns and stuff. People face homophobia, and that is disgusting. And that, that is what we want to fight about. I am personally uninterested in going through a bunch of like men and women and trying to categorize whether they either fall into the gay or straight category.
Yeah.
when they're dating trans people, when they one time dated a trans person or blah, blah. It's just rubbish. Like the whole point is, if they are someone who faces homophobia and stuff, but maybe they're in a complicated relationship and maybe their partner is non-binary, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter to me. All that matters is how they describe themselves to me. So if they're my friend, or that I am combating the homophobia they're facing by getting, LGBT issues taught at school, actually prosecuting people who do hate crimes, all of these other kind of things. So I get the drive to put things in boxes, but I think you just got to accept that there are gray areas and it's messy.
Yeah.
Because
and Simon, I just looking at your call screener notes, it seems like the rest of your call is another like 2 or 3 questions that have to do with just kind of further semantic definition stuff. So I think what we're going to do is ask you to call back maybe another week. That way we can make room for all of the callers. I'm sorry?
The last question, right?
I'm sorry, I'm not catching that.
If you've got one more question, I think I know what it is. You can go for it, and I can answer it very quickly, or Arden can answer it very quickly, and then we'll call it a day.
What are valid pronouns? He, him, she, her, they, them, but the others like it, vamp, or others.
Yeah, I don't think I get to decide what necessarily valid pronouns are. I don't have to understand exactly why people use certain pronouns for them to be valid. I'm not interested in saying somebody's pronouns are invalid because I do or don't understand why they might use them. I think that is not my call to. I'm not the judge or the arbiter of what's valid pronouns.
I guess all words are made up, and we make up new words to describe stuff. And if some people make up a new set of pronouns to describe something, and then it catches on and people start using it, cool. I don't care. I don't care enough to make a fuss about it. If it was something really grim, or if they were using my name as a pronoun, I might be a bit annoyed. But other than that, it's just not an interesting. No offense, Simon, but if someone's I don't think they them really covers gender neutral in the way that I want it to, so I think we should all switch to zer and zem or something. Cool. Sounds like a decent logical argument. Good luck getting people to go along with it, but when you're doing that, then you're understanding that the majority of people are going to be tripped up by that. And if you keep at it and have a big feminist discussion about it, people might start doing it more, and then it might become more normalized, and then maybe in 20 years it's a normal part of the English language, and then we don't care anymore. I don't know. That's my position.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Simon.
Thanks for taking me the first
That's
time.
all right.
Thank you. It was a really nice discussion. See ya, and you're a really nice host. Pretty nice. Thank you.
Thanks,
Simon. Very
Have a nice one. Bye.
That was a nice Trans 101.
Yeah. It seemed like maybe Simon didn't necessarily agree with some of our definitions at the start, but that's kind of why I was if the whole call is going to be going over every semantic thing in the queer community and trans community, that we're literally going to be here all day. So, all right. So we're going to do Simon in Germany Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
This is a different Simon in the same Germany.
Hello.
Hi, Simon. What's up?
I just wanted to say, first of all, hello, bizarro version of me, or mirrorverse version. Nice to meet you. I hope you're having a good day. So
see which is the best Simon then. Come on.
Nah, that's unfair. Let's not distinguish people by how they do and call and shit. So I was calling in today for 2 reasons. I have a small question, and I also wanted to say how my transition has been going so far as an update.
Cool.
Which one should I start with?
If you've got a quick update, do that, and because it might lead into your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have been on hormones now for 2 months.
Okay.
I have
Awesome.
come out to my family, and
Oh, how did that go?
it went well. It was a lot harder on me
Great.
than it was apparently on my family.
Mm.
I thought they
Okay.
would freak out because they were acting a lot different to other like non-related trans people than they did to me.
Sure.
And
Okay.
also, I did some safety procedures. So, for example, my family is on vacation right now in Italy, and my mom basically came out for me to my dad while they were there. So, had some time to cool off too.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and I just want to say that like ever since ever since I started transitioning, I started taking a lot better care of myself and my mental health. And I actually kind of like want to solve the problems now that I had and not just like hope that I waste away kind of. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
transitioning does help a lot with like actually wanting to help yourself.
Absolutely. For me, I mean, it's the first time I cared about myself at all.
Yeah.
Was when I got some way into transition. So I'm really glad that you're feeling that too. Getting some self-love.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. So what was the other question you had?
Yeah, my question was, so is it ethically okay to like act online like you want to be, but not like you are right now? Like in terms of transitioning, like if I act like a girl and have like a female anime PFP or something profile pic, is that ethical, or should I like not do that until I like look the part too?
I think present yourself however you like. This is how you present yourself online is part of your presentation. Like it's not just something, the internet's a big part of people's lives, is what I'm trying to say. And if you want a nice profile picture that you think represents you, or it's like your favorite character, whatever, or whatever reason, then yeah, go for that. I guess in terms of presenting yourself, if you want to just, I mean, maybe you don't even want to present yourself as a trans person. You just want to present yourself just as a woman online. Yeah,
Well,
I don't see any issue with that.
I'm just open about that. I don't want to lie to people.
Yeah, and so I guess that's all I'd say is I wouldn't lie about where you are in, say, transition or anything. Like, you wouldn't want to be like, oh, I transitioned 10 years ago when you actually didn't. But if you want to present yourself how you see yourself, ideally or whatever, I don't see any issue with that at all. I mean, some people like pretend to be all kinds of things on the internet. So if you're not trying to set someone up for a date and deceive them because you actually look nothing like the pictures you put up. Yeah.
I don't intend to like catfish anyone or anything. It's more like if it's like okay for me to act how I want to act, even though I can't like do it in real life yet.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's totally fine. I think there can be some like tangential like ethical concerns. Like I could see if somebody was like wanting to represent themselves and they use like a real person's photo and like kind of start representing that as themselves, because I have had like once a week I get somebody posting pictures as me and somebody will tag me and be like, hey, this is happening. That's awful. That's shitty. And I think that's super unethical. But if you're just like posting pictures of you or an anime profile picture and just kind of being like, just acting more openly as you in a way that you can't in your personal life, that seems absolutely okay to me.
Okay. And even if I want to make friends, because in a way, isn't that like, I don't know, like I wouldn't like not tell anyone that I'm what I really look like and like who I am and stuff. It's just, I don't know, I feel like I might be lying to people and like gaining affection that I don't deserve when I like just act like I want to, but I'm not there yet IRL.
I think just act how you want. That is you, isn't it? Like, you're not you're not faking it.
Right.
You're not trying to deceive anyone. You're just trying to feel free and be you. And I think that's the best reason to do it.
Yeah, I've interacted with plenty of people in social media who don't post like real pictures of themselves, but everything about my interactions with them would indicate that this is authentically who they are as a person. They're just withholding certain specific details for it's not my business, so I don't really need to know why. And I think you're
they're
entitled.
hot as fuck, and they don't want to make you jealous.
Yeah, right. I don't think you people are entitled to information about you necessarily. But yeah, I think as long I think if you're just like it's a forum for you to be more open about how you would normally like to be, then yeah, that's totally acceptable. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I just got a little bit concerned about it for a dumb reason, I guess. Like, actually, an online friend that I have told me that he already considered me female because I type like a female and I act like that around him, and I was just like feeling bad if he knows that I'm not female, but I'm like I just like felt bad, like as if I was like deceiving him or something.
No, don't stress. Just let it happen. You're all good.
Okay.
Yeah. Congratulations on coming out and stuff, and
Thank you.
keep us updated, and I'm sure we'll hear from you in the future.
Yeah, the show definitely helped. I just want to
Great.
say thank you very much and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Simon.
you.
Bye.
Bye. We've had two pretty good Simons. Are there any other German Simons who want to call in? We could just
Right.
have a German Simon show, but unfortunately, we're going to have to take a non-Simon, non-German caller next. I thought maybe 8-4 looks like it could potentially be
Sure.
wacky.
Yeah. Real quick before we do that, I want to remind everyone that at the end of the show, we'll read your super chats. Any super chats $5 or more, we will read out loud. And if you add hashtag Team Arden to the end, you'll feel a little bit better about yourself. Also, if you go to patreon.com/calledtheline, that is the best way to support this network. The most direct way to support the hosts and the production and everything that goes on here. And I don't think we have next week's schedule sorted out yet, do we? No, not really anything. But we have a usual programming, the Sunday show, Skeptalk, Dying Out Loud, The Hang Up, and of course, Tack Us Again. So there will be a whole week of shows next week. We just don't have the details on who's going to be what and where. So subscribe if you want to catch all that. Anywho, let's take Min in California. Min, you are live on Transatlantic on the line. What's going on?
Hello, Aron. Hello, Katy.
Hi.
It's so good to talk to you here. Because I specifically want to ask Aron this question because because you are, I consider like very sex positive, and because of your profession, so you probably understand people attitude better than lay people like myself. So it's something I wonder like, so you know the concept of gay andromorphophilia, right?
Is this guy?
So,
Is this like
because I'm not going to answer the rest.
Sure.
Little definition thing. So, gyne, as in gynecology, and other things, means woman. Andro, like android, actually means male. Morphophilia is like saying attracted to the object of. So, gyneandromorphophilia is intended to be a word for people who are specifically attracted to. So, when you phrase it like this, it's usually said as if it's a bad thing, like a fetish or a paraphilia. But it usually means someone who is specifically attracted to
trans woman with
someone
a
who
penis.
has both male and female body parts, either like a man with a vagina or a woman with a penis, usually.
Right. Okay. For a second I thought we were talking about AGP, but no. Okay, It's a different one. Yeah, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. Generally speaking, I'm pretty sex positive. I think the things you were sexually attracted to don't necessarily have to reflect super deeply on our personal values or things like that. They often do, but I don't think they necessarily do. I also think that you can't really control what you're attracted to, and if you happen to find the configuration of body parts where somebody's got boobs and a penis, and that's just like really does it for you. I don't think you can really control that or be faulted for being attracted to that. I do think that people who have those attractions due to being raised in the society that we have, where trans women are really only valued in this very objectified, pornographic way, where our representations in the media are really poor, tend to not treat the people who they're attracted to with dignity and respect. And that's definitely a problem. But I don't really feel like I don't really have any feelings about what somebody may or may not be personally attracted to. I think that is your right, and you probably can't do anything about it. And so just be respectful, make sure you're always engaged in sexual activity that is informed, enthusiastic consent. And then I don't really see what necessary, there's nothing really else to layer on top of that, you know?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, so that's something
Sorry, you go on, man. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Katy, you can respond first. I'll continue later.
Yeah, I guess what I was going to say is I understand why, at least from trans women's point of view, I've talked to less trans men about this, but I can understand why some trans women wouldn't want someone who is specifically attracted to like the boobs and penis combo or something.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't be interested in that because there is this concept of a chaser, which is someone who sees trans people as a fetish. And maybe people blow those two things together and think that they're like the same thing. I don't think they necessarily have to be at all. But and so they might kind of shame it. And the other thing is they might not want to be seen as some kind of freak or whatever, how they might see themselves. I think that's kind of internalized transphobia because, I mean, really, if that's your body and that's how you're happiest or you're okay where you are, and your partner is attracted to your whole body, then that's like a win, isn't it? You don't want them to be like, oh, I'm attracted to women and I'm attracted to all of you, but you have a penis. And actually, I find that fine, but I'm not specifically into it because that'll like it would be good to find someone who's specifically into all of the specific bits you have. I would just be worried, not just because I think it's internalized transphobia and also just kind of negatively calling someone who isn't the chaser a chaser. But also it could be a bad thing because a lot of gender critical men are like hopelessly addicted to trans porn, and you can tell when they come at you. And maybe if society was kinder to them and they weren't so stressed about being attracted to us, then maybe they wouldn't be so transphobic. So, you know, it's wins all around. But anyway, Mim, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so that's something I like Aron's perspective on this because I kind of see like double standard among some trans activists. Like, for example, like some people, some trans people on TikTok or YouTube, where they say if you're not attracted to a woman who have the part, it's because that the society conditioned you to be transphobic. So therefore, you should examine your why you have that sort of prejudice. And on the other scale, and there are some people like, oh, I like, this trans woman specifically because, she has that part. And then they say, well, you just fetishize or, you objectify me and instead of, valuing me. And I see some, like many years ago, there was a supermodel on Tyra Banks, and she presented herself before and after she had bottom surgery, and she had a boyfriend who would love to marry her before she got surgery, but after she got the SRS, then she broke up with him because she said that he felt he missed something because it's not the same anymore, even though he still loved her, but she did not feel like it's fulfillment, so that's why she cut it off. So I kind of find interesting that there is some kind of opposite extreme, I guess.
Yeah,
it is confusing. On the like the point about examine your prejudices thing, I think I wouldn't tell anyone if someone said I'm not attracted to something, then I'm not going to be like, oh, examine your prejudices, because maybe it's just how their sexuality works. But just as a general point, it is worth examining your own prejudices, because everyone has prejudices, and they're all either irrational or not. And if they're irrational, then it's good to get rid of them, because then maybe your dating pool gets bigger, maybe your friend circle gets bigger. But on just on this kind of like, it's almost like a trap. I actually have had guys message me this, like, not in that sense of trap.
I was waiting
bad
for
choice
it.
of word, but like, I have had grumpy guys message me before, being like, "Oh, if I'm not attracted to trans women, then I'm transphobic, and if I am attracted to them, then I get called a chaser." And I'm like, well, I think in this particular case, it's most probably because you've been a bit of a weirdo to someone, but I do see why people might potentially feel like that. And I guess my advice to someone who's like, I find this particular trans woman attractive, or I find specific combinations of body parts attractive, just don't treat those people like fetish objects or circus freaks, or just be into them like you would anyone else. Don't be a creeper.
Like, I think I've said similar things on this show about, like, you know, when we have callers who, I agree with Katie. If somebody tells me they're not attracted to trans women, I'm not going to fight with them in that moment and be like, out in general speaking, and be like, oh, well, you should examine your prejudices because maybe you actually are. Like, I don't care about it that way. But if somebody calls into the show saying straight men can't be into trans women, I would be more willing to bring up a point like that, because I will say my experience and the experience of most of the trans women that I interact with would indicate that most straight men are attracted to trans women, but have deeply repressed some level of self-hatred over the notion of that attraction. But like, again, I'm not going to try to convince someone you have to be attracted to trans women, or you need to, you know, put a dick in your mouth and try it to see if you really don't like it. Like, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I think there's value in talking about that perspective, because it does, I think, reflect the experience of a lot of trans women, that men will deny their attraction to us publicly, but then pine after us privately, to the point where, you know, they will hire trans sex workers and then murder them. Like, that, this is a, like, phenomena that has happened, right? This is where you get into the, I forget what the name for the self-defense argument is, where they're like, oh, I didn't know and it surprised me, so it was valid.
Panic defense.
Yes, the trans panic defense. But, like, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I completely am comfortable with the fact that some people have a genital preference and there's nothing they can do about it, and I don't think they should feel ashamed if they're like, oh, I just personally really can't have sex with somebody who has a penis. Like, if that's how you feel, then don't have sex with someone who has a penis. Like, I'm for informed, enthusiastic consent. When I'm talking about the other stuff, I'm talking about society and beliefs and prejudice. When I'm talking about what people can and should engage in, I'm talking about informed, enthusiastic consent. And if you aren't enthusiastically like, yes, I want to have sex with that person, then you shouldn't do it. Regardless of whether it's because of prejudice or if it's because that's just how you're built.
Just going to make a bit of a fuss about the term genital preferences, because maybe you have a preference, but maybe it's not a preference, and maybe it's like you're only attracted to one. I just don't like the term preference, because you can have preferences within your sexual orientation. Sexual orientation itself is not a preference. It's like part of you.
Sure. Yeah, genital preference is just kind of the common phrasing that you hear online, but that's fair.
I'm
maybe not
politically
sufficient.
opposed to saying it, so I'm going to make a fuss every single time.
Sure. No, that's fair. How's that land with you, man?
Cool.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your answer. I actually want to ask Katie another question, but I think I'll save for another time, because you mentioned AGP, so that's something I read into it. So it's something I want to ask you, but I'm gonna.
You want to ask Arden about being attractive, and you want to ask me about having a fetish. What you want? Thanks, man.
Well, it's
talk
just
to you
because
next time.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. See you later.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye,
man.
Adam. Thanks.
No worries. Hold on, let me get this up. I am going to close the lines because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
Loads of
callers on the
callers.
line, and we're already an hour into the show. So we might not even have time to get to everyone. We're going to do our best.
I want to talk to the bottom one.
Yeah, sure, go for it. But I'm just letting everyone know that I am closing the line so no new calls will be admitted.
Okay. So we're going to talk to Joe in Louisiana,
Oh, sure.
who votes Republican and isn't a transphobe. Is that right, Joe?
That's correct.
So explain yourself.
No, okay. Listen, I grew up liberal. My family, we always voted Democrat because that's really the ideals we believed as a family. Individual freedom. Everybody should be able to live their life however they want.
Yeah.
I would consider myself a straight man, but honestly, I have no problem saying a trans woman's beautiful. I've seen beautiful trans women that I would date. So it's not, there's no, what am I trying to say here? It's not that I hate the Democratic Party. I love the Democratic Party. But when it comes to the whole issues of it's like so many, and I don't want to get out of the trans deal because I don't want to go political on this, but there's so many issues that just are springing up. There's so much controversy right now circling the Democratic Party. Whereas when I believe what government really should be is 5 areas. And that's just defense, education, healthcare, welfare, and infrastructure. And if it gets too far outside of that, it's starting to overreach. And I don't think the government should reach into people's lives and dictate what they do. I think it should just leave people's lives.
Okay, no, Joe, I got to stop you now. Okay, you've said so many things that are baffling to me. First of all, you said you don't like the Democratic Party because they're embroiled in controversy. Meanwhile, the top GOP candidate by like a massive margin has 4 indictments and like 90 something charges on him that are very credible.
I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not a Trump fan.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The party you're voting for has been fundamentally shaped by Trump's presidency in a radical way. Voting for the GOP is voting for Trumpism at this point. Then going forward, you're saying that you don't like the Democrats because you don't want people investing in their lives. The Democrats are the party that is trying to say, leave trans people alone. Don't interfere with their lives. The GOP is the party. Hold on. The GOP is the party that is trying to make it so trans kids can't get evidence-based healthcare, where doctors can be criminalized for giving evidence-based healthcare, where parents can have their children removed from their home for evidence-based healthcare. So please justify your position. Hold on. Please, hold on. Let me finish my fucking sentence. So please justify how on earth the Democrats are not the people who are interfering with your ability to live your life unencumbered, but the Republicans are. Who is it that the Republicans let live their life unencumbered, Joe? Because it's not trans people. It's not people of color.
Well, it's
Go for it, Joe.
okay. This is a whole lot to unpack. First of all, I guess my main objective as what my political beliefs are is I can't stand partisan politics just for this. Just for the fact that like you can't think one way or think the other. It's like you have to be a member of a party and have just an extreme belief either all the way to the right or all the way to the left. And that's not how the world works. The world is one big gray area. It's not just black and white. There's a specific set of solutions for every specific problem. And you can't just like, it's a hindrance of our whole political process.
No, see
that.
Okay, go on. Finish. You're already saying things that make your worldview incoherent.
I'm going to say a thing at the end. I'm going to cut in as well, but I'll let you two have a go first. Finish, Joe.
I'm taking notes.
No, listen. First of all, I'm not an enemy of you guys or anything. Like, I want y'all to know that. Like, this is not I'm just calling to explain my point here. What I'm saying is this hindrance. The hindrance I'm getting at is that decisions won't be made. I mean, it's like all we see anywhere in Washington or at the state level is just litigation after litigation with no real action being taken anywhere to actually help the actual people. And the real thing people want the most in this country is just to be left alone.
Yes.
It's not, and I'm not, and look.
Joe,
like
this
I said,
is the problem. Your worldview is incoherent.
Democrat.
Your worldview is incoherent. You can't tell me you want a society where people are left alone and then tell me you're going to vote for the GOP to achieve that. That doesn't make sense. Those are logically contradictory beliefs. You cannot hold both of those at the same time.
I'm not. I mean, yes, I can, because
it's literally it's logically impossible. You can't advocate for maximal freedom and then vote for a party that objectively removes freedoms from people. Those things are incompatible.
Well, what about financial independence, for example? Okay, like we get taxed more and more every time the government.
Please hold on. Please explain a little bit deeper what financial independence is. You can't just drop a phrase like that.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like, okay, if you or I go over budget for the month, which isn't hard to do anymore, okay? If you or I go over budget for the month and then we end up running out of money, we're broke. We don't have options. We're broke. And so if the government ends up trying to, if they go over their budget, they just raise taxes. They just tax something else. The state I live in right now, the governor himself, his entire platform was no more taxes. And the minute he got in office, the first thing he did, and I voted for him, he's a Democrat, the first thing he did was say, we got to raise taxes. And then what he did to do it was say, and if you don't vote for it, I'll have to take the tuition assistance away from children, from college students.
Yeah, okay. So here's the problem with why this is actually fucking stupid. Okay? Because the government cannot accomplish anything without taxes, Joe. How does the government...
No, I understand that.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. How does the government give you education? How does the government help people who are broke without taxes? You say, it's so easy to go over budget and then we're broke nowadays. So why are you voting for the party that removes every single form of welfare? Your worldview is logically incoherent, Joe.
No, but what's the incoherence that the Republican Party doesn't want to remove every welfare program. That's not true at all.
Oh my God!
I don't know why you're saying that.
Joe, stop. Let's clarify something. When I said I said remove every welfare program, I didn't mean remove every single one. That's fair. All right, I'll take that criticism. But the Republican Party is the one that is advocating for reducing those things, removing those things. The Democratic Party. And by the way, I'm not a fan of the Democrats, FYI. They are just the best option that we have in the U.S. is the party that is expanding those programs, that is trying to make those programs accessible to more people.
Well, of course, listen, I think the best program that can be made available to more people is the government that would allow people to have more money in their pockets at the end of the month, at the end of the day. The less I'm taxed, the more I can handle my own personal freedoms.
Joe, do you know how math works? Look, if I have to pay... No, I'm going to go on this.
I have a degree in math.
Listen, okay, great, fantastic. And this should be really easy for you, Joe, okay? If I have to... No, Joe, shut the fuck up. If I have to pay...
No, I don't...
Joe, shut the fuck up.
I'm not going to curse at you. Don't curse at me.
I'm going to curse at you as much as I fucking want, Joe. This is my fucking show, and I'm allowed to fucking swear as much as I fucking want. If you don't like it, take your little whiny ass out the door. Got it? Now you're going to sit down on mute, and you're going to listen to what I fucking have to say. If I have to pay $500 a month on premiums for my insurance, and there's an out-of-pocket maximum where I'm spending another $25,000 throughout the year, and I'm still paying taxes into Medicare, that is significantly more money out of my pocket than if we have a single payer that is slightly more taxes, but you aren't paying all of those extra premiums. You aren't paying those out-of-pocket minimum expenses. That is less money out of your pocket at the end of the day. So, Mr. Math Major, if you're so good at math, please explain to me why you advocate for... Oh, he dropped? Aw, you poor little baby can't handle being cursed at? Big fucking whoop. Boo fucking who? Go take your sensitive little feelings and your incoherent worldview, your inability to justify your positions, and shove it up your fucking ass.
So, I didn't really want to cut in there because obviously as a British, I don't have the same tie-ins to American politics. The argument I was going to ask Joe, and I would still be up for asking Joe, but not if he's wound you up so much you don't want to talk to him ever again. But is I can accept the general idea of I want to pay less taxes. Like, we can argue that, it helps with these things, but the government wastes some taxes, and maybe you think one group's better at handling them, or whatever. That's fine. If I'm happy to accept that, and let's say, the Republicans are better at taxes. I'll just accept that position. My issue is that, like, the difference we're talking about in tax here is like, oh, maybe I have X £100 more or less, or whatever it is, dollars, I don't know, worthless to me. Mm. But the Republicans also want to, like, make it illegal for me to go to the toilet at work.
Yeah.
So for me, even if I wanted to pay taxes, I don't really have a choice to vote for. Well, I couldn't personally vote for the Republicans if I lived in the USA. I don't actually know if I'd ever be able to vote, but let's just say I was a US citizen, because one of them might want to make things slightly easier for most people. I'll give you that. But they also want to, like, totally ruin my life and make it impossible for me to have a job or exist in society at all. I also want to take healthcare away from children who grown up with similar condition, to what I have. And I just think that I understand when trans issues doesn't affect you personally, why you just be like, oh, well, I'll just rather pay less tax. But, like, you must at least be able to empathize with the position that I just don't have the same choice as you, because it would actually ruin my life if they got what they wanted. So I guess that's what I'd say to, cis people in this position is it might just be a tax difference for you or a management of resources difference for you. And that might be a big deal. And that is politics, isn't it? Arguing about how to manage resources and tax. But also tacked onto the side is they're like trying to eradicate people like me. So I just don't think that these two issues are like one of, 6 of one and half a dozen the other, or whatever the phrase is. Like, one of these is like fascism and the other one is like argument about tax. It's like, it just doesn't matter to me compared to the other one. So
yeah, and he's just fundamentally wrong about how those taxes fill out. Like, the better taxes for the majority is just not true. So, like, that's his argument. Yeah. If that were true, I could understand it. But the thing is, it's factually untrue, and he's attacking our human rights. So, by the way, Joe can call in again. I'm not going to ban Joe. Joe wasn't like some of the callers we've had. But, Joe, if you're so fucking sensitive that you can't handle me dropping a fuck, then maybe you should find another fucking show to call in, because I'm going to curse however much I want. Because, by the way, this is a very Republican libertarian position I'm about to espouse here, but I'm here for free fucking speech. Say whatever I fucking want. Because it's just a word. Oh my God. I didn't curse at you. Curse at me. Curse at me. I'm not afraid of you cursing at me.
Yeah, Joe, I'd love to talk to you again and have the discussion I said, but I will also say fuck, so, it's up to you. But maybe we can talk to 12-1, which potentially will keep Arden on a roll. I don't know what you think about this one. Okay,
I haven't even read it yet, but go ahead.
Okay, Jack in Nevada, I hope you're feeling ready. I think you want to talk about Hogwarts Legacy, so a blast from the past. 3 months ago, whenever that was. Jack, are you there?
Speaking of incompatible positions, right? Yeah, so I consider myself an ally. However, I personally believe that Hogwarts Legacy should be allowed, to be purchased fairly guilt-free. And I think I've heard in the past on the show that I think it was Arden didn't agree with that. I don't know, Katie, what your view is, but I guess first I'm just curious what your views on it are.
I think maybe there was a misunderstanding. My view that I've voiced on Hogwarts Legacy is that I view protesting the purchase of Hogwarts Legacy much in the way that I view like veganism. I think it is a good thing for people to do if they want to do, but I don't think it is a moral necessity. Like, relating to the last caller, I think voting for human rights is a bit of a moral necessity. You ought to do that. I don't think buying Hogwarts or protesting Hogwarts is a moral necessity. I think there's probably some arguments you can make that it does cause some sort of material harm to trans people, but I don't think, honestly, that the material harm caused by Hogwarts Legacy is so significant that it's worth causing up a storm over. I had multiple friends have full, long discussions with me about, I really like the game. The game looks really cool. I kind of want to get it. And I was like, there are ways you can do it ethically if you want to try to dodge around things, but I honestly don't think it's worth a lot of people's time to get worked up about.
Yeah, I don't know what I said last time, because I don't really care that much. But honestly, and this isn't. I do hate J.K. Rowling with a passion, but just to separate from that, and people can take me on my word or not. If someone told me they bought Hogwarts Legacy, honestly, my gut reaction would be, "Oh, I've got a friend who likes Harry Potter." Not for the J.K. Rowling thing, not for the transphobia stuff, but just like it's just like the worst, lamest big media franchise. Like, I'm into Pokemon. I'm sure loads of people think that's cringe. For me, the cringiest fucking one. It's even worse than Doctor Who. It's just Harry. It's just like I just didn't get into it, and that would be my first reaction. And then my second reaction would be like, "Oh no, they're going to ask me about transphobia and whether it's okay, and they're going to ask for my like permission to buy it, and then I'm going to have to be like, oh yeah, it's fine," and then it's just going to be a cringe conversation. So I don't really want to have that too. But then third down in the ladder, I just guess to one thing you said, Jack. You said buying it fairly guilt-free, and I guess you can kind of choose how guilty you feel over stuff to a degree. But, I mean, it's a bit like getting a flight or, eating eggs or something. Like, technically, it might be the moral thing to not fly for a holiday because it destroys the planet. Or, technically, you're contributing to the egg industry and it's kind of horrible. And you can just be like, oh, these people are just getting fussed over nothing. Oh, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to feel guilty. Like, that is a garbage position because the proper position is, yeah, it's kind of immoral to contribute to the egg industry. It's kind of immoral to fly Ryanair. It's kind of immoral to support J.K. Rowling. But I'm just going to do it anyway because I just accept that I do some immoral things. And what I'm actually doing is like not eating chicken meat. I'm not like, setting fire to forests. I couldn't think of a good example for that. I'm not like I bought a good car, or I'm not driving when I could walk somewhere. And then on this, you could be like, well, I support trans people, and maybe when I buy Hogwarts Legacy, I'll also donate the same price to mermaids or someone. That's offsetting some moral position. But if you were like, you know what, Katie, I support trans rights, but I like Harry Potter, don't cringe, and I'm going to play Hogwarts Legacy, I'll just be like, yeah, all right, whatever. I genuinely don't really care. But if you were like, I bought 10 copies of Hogwarts Legacy just because I hate trans people, then be like, well, firstly, that's even more cringe. But secondly, I mean, the part that's bad here is you hating trans people, not really the fact that you... I know a lot of people have said they bought multiple copies. I kind of hope they have, because it's like sawing off their own foot to prove to me how stupid I am for saying people shouldn't saw off their own foot or something. I don't. It's like, mate, I hope you got 10 copies of Hogwarts Legacy. It's a bit of a self-claim, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know, Jack. What do you reckon?
I don't think it's cringe. First off, to like Pokemon, that's cool, and I won't hear.
That's true. That's
anything
fact.
Else. But second off, it's interesting point you brought up that actually the negative reaction to it actually seemed to kind of inflame anti-trans sentiment, right? So lots of people were going and purchasing the game. I think it became the most concurrently streamed game on Twitch of all time, if I'm remembering correctly. And it sold more than like many blockbuster films. So it's like, at what point is it good to kind of just take the stance that you're taking, just kind of like that, sit back, if people want to like something, that's fine. Instead, what a lot of people chose to do was to create kind of a movement about it, and a lot of people.
So what I would say to this is this like the cancelled thing. Like, getting cancelled is pretty much the best thing that can happen to your career if you're a right-wing shithead. There are whole people whose entire lives are based off of being cancelled. It doesn't really mean anything. And in this case, I kind of feel it was like that. Like, trans people have absolutely no power here. If every single trans person on Earth boycotted every single thing J.K. Rowling did, it wouldn't affect her at all. Because we're like 0.3% of the population or something. Literally she wouldn't even notice. She'd still be richer than you can imagine and a horrible person. But what you can do, if you're like the publishing company or someone who supports J.K. Rowling or herself or, you know, whatever. If you're a streamer who wants to bring in new people to watch, you can pretend there's a controversy and be like, trans people are trying to stop you from playing this game, but I'm going to play it anyway. So come support me if you want to. Like, that gets people in. People love the idea of doing stuff that they're not allowed to do, or supporting people who are being silenced or something. And we can say, oh, well, trans people shouldn't have overreacted. Like, yeah, it would have been great if we had, as a united bloc, the entire like LGBT voting bloc and like the whole of the left wing all just didn't buy any more Harry Potter products, and then it actually financially impacted her. Like, that'd be great, but it's not going to happen. And there were better boycotts to do, so I'm not really going to push for it. But you know, some people did. Some people like, don't buy Hogwarts Legacy, please, or I'm going to unfriend anyone who does or whatever. But you've only got to have one person say that, and then you can be like, oh, the Daily Mail can be like, trans people are trying to stop you enjoying fun, and then suddenly it's a thing. So I do think that probably the majority of it was people trying to make it a thing because it's beneficial for them to do so.
That makes sense.
But if there was trans people who were saying, if you're a trans person and you're like, you're undermining me, Katie, I told all my friends not to buy it, and one of them did, and I got really upset. Like, I understand that position because it's very stressful being a trans person at the moment, and sometimes people who you thought were cool turn out to be like deranged transphobes, and sometimes they change it overnight, like J.K. Rowling. And if you are a bit early on in transition, or you're a bit insecure about your friends, or you don't know where people stand, you might be worried what signal they're sending by buying this game and talking about it like without worrying in front of you and stuff. I would say maybe it's a little over defensive to like want your friends to not buy it, but like I do understand why people are over defensive. And really the issue here is like, if your friend's being like, can you not buy this game, or they're straight up telling you like as demand, you cannot buy this game or we're not friends anymore, really kind of the response you should have is like, mate, I understand you're stressed about transphobia. Things are fucking horrible at the moment. If you need to talk to me, let's talk. We're good friends, you know. And if you have a charity that you think could really benefit, or do you have a crowdfunder, or does your best friend have a crowdfunder? Maybe I can help out with that. I can share it because I don't have enough money or whatever. Also, I'm going to do this game, but just so you know, I'm not buying this game as some kind of signal for my support for J.K. Rowling, who is a horrible person. I just happen to be one of these cringe people who likes Harry Potter, and I'm sorry, but
I like Harry Potter.
Yeah, no,
I used to be a huge Harry Potter fan.
You know, I really like Megadeth, the thrash metal band, and the guitarist from that is a fucking prick. Like, he's totally off the deep end. He thinks Obama staged Sandy Hook. Like, he's totally ridiculous, right-wing shithead.
Yeah.
But I would still buy a Megadeth t-shirt if I saw them and they sold one with the Rust in Peace logo on it, because it's just part of who I am. And it's not a signal to people that I think Sandy Hook was staged.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. Sorry. I was just going to say that I think there's a huge difference between, like, if there was a game that was like Nazi Simulator created by a Nazi where they're advocating for like you to do horrible acts of atrocious violence, like that would be, to me, like, okay, anyone buying this game is probably a little fucked up in the head, even if they just think it's a troll or a joke. That's someone I don't want anything to do with. But that's so different from somebody buying Harry Potter and maybe tangentially like some cause and effect creating harm for trans people. I think those are completely different things. So yeah, I think there was just maybe a misunderstanding, and it could have been my fault. I could have phrased something poorly, but yeah, I definitely don't think people are bad people for playing Hogwarts Legacy. That's how
also,
I feel
if you just
about
went up to J.K. Rowling and gave her $100 note or whatever the biggest American note is, that's like walking up to me and giving me a grain of sand. Like, it means nothing to her. If she gets £1 billion more, like, she's already infinitely rich. Like, who cares? So it would be good if we were managed to financially hit her. So
I think a lot of people just struggle with kind of this morally gray area where it's like, am I signaling to my trans friends that I support, J.K. Rowling, even if even if they tell me it's cool, and even if they don't mind if I
Just
buy
be
it,
explicit.
like, are they secretly, like, thinking less of me? Like, it just kind of puts you in a bad position because you're not doing something to hurt anybody. You're doing it because you're excited about something cringe, and they can't share in that, So I think a lot of people struggle with this on other topics too.
Sure.
Just be like, oh wow, a proper cool moth has just flown into my room. Sorry. Just be like, hey, trans friend, I bought the cringe game. I just want you to explicitly know that I don't support J.K. Rowling. She's a horrible person. I do support trans rights, and I'm going to be sharing a thing about trans rights on my page, so everyone knows that I am pro-trans. If I can help you, let me know, and then that'll do. Then they know, and then you can go off with your moral gray area.
Yeah. Does that address your topic, Jack? We've got a few other calls.
Thank you
Sure.
both so much for the time. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the show.
Thanks, Jack. You too.
Thanks, Jack.
Great.
Do we have any splice left? Like maybe the 11.6.
Yeah, I think 11.6 will be a little spice. Let's bring in Robert from California. Robert, you are live on Transatlantic on the Line. What's going on?
Hey, Arden. Hey, Katie. I think that my question, I feel like it's similar. I mean, at least related to the previous question about Hogwarts Legacy. But how ethical is it to use Twitter anymore, considering how transphobic? I mean, there's a lot of other problems that Elon Musk has.
Yeah,
I think transphobic he has been.
Yeah, I understand why it's similar to the last question, but I actually think the answer is totally different for a few reasons. Elon Musk is like as brain rot over trans people as J.K. Rowling is, probably. So yeah, you could say, oh, we're supporting Twitter or whatever. But also, when you play, like the exchange with Hogwarts Legacy is like, here is some of my money, J.K. Rowling. Do what you want with it, and I'm going to have some fun on my own in my room, or what we're playing with my friends on stream or something. But Twitter is like a place where you can do political campaigning and tell politicians to fuck off to their face and tell Elon Musk that he is a crybaby to his face for free. I mean, I know the classic, if you're not paying for it, you're the product, but Twitter has like never had a year where it's actually made money. Elon is destroying Elon Musk's wealth. It's destroying like his legacy. And he wants all the trans people and left-wing people gone. But we can still go on there and like fight against what he wants and embarrass him in front of everyone else. And like, I have come to terms with the fact that eventually I'm going to get banned from Twitter. And I have 114,000 followers. And at one point, like the first time I got banned when I had like 50,000 followers, I was genuinely upset because I was like, this is where I do my political campaigning and this is an important place to be. And, my friends are there and this is going to... Now, Twitter is a pile of shit. Everyone knows it is. It's full of Nazis. It's slowly dying. Less and less people are going to go there over the next 5 years. And eventually it'll become a nothing website. So it's kind of already dead in that sense. So we might as well go down with the ship, destroying as much of the ship as we possibly can on the way down, stealing as much of the furnishings and stuff, and embarrassing a dickhead who crashed it into an iceberg. That's kind of how I see it. I'm going to use Twitter for what it can be used. I genuinely hope he removes the block feature, because then I can go and tell all these pathetic gender critical people who have blocked every single trans person on the website to the face, and they won't be able to block me anymore, and I'll be able to challenge them. They'll be able to say something, and I'll be like, well, no, because you also said this, didn't you? You're trying to act all normal now, but you also once said you want to eradicate trans people, so now will your followers know, because you blocked everyone else who said it. And I even considered, because I guess the other thing is, if you're paying for a blue tick, you are paying Elon money, and I think that is bad. Though he has so few subscriptions. Like, this isn't like Hogwarts Legacy where, they made $1 billion or whatever. He's earning nothing off subscriptions. It was a stupid idea. But he can't drop it now because it'll be even more embarrassing for him. So you're probably not, it's not really, you're not making him wealthy or anything. but it is cringe as shit. It's like, oh, I'm too unimportant and worthwhile for people to actually want to listen to me, so I'm paying to force my... It's like buying an advert for yourself for your own stupid political opinions. However, that said, I have thought, like, as Twitter gets worse, but if he does remove the block feature, maybe for just 1 month I'll pay for the blue tick, because then every single time some transphobic loser tweets and people click on the tweet, I will be the top reply. And there'll be nothing any of them can do about it. Because, like, it's not because I'm trying to promote myself. It's not because I feel like, everyone's got to listen to me because I'm super... Like, how utterly annoying would it be if you're trying to eradicate some minority and you're like, I'm actually just a normal person with concerns, and then some fucking bellend turns up and lists a load of receipts underneath saying you're a fascist. Like, that's me using this tool to the best of my ability until I get banned from it. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But basically, the answer to the question is, if you're using Twitter to talk to your friends, or you're using it to argue for LGBT rights, or BLM or something, good. If you're anti-Elon, that's great. If you're on Twitter because you want to promote your crypto scam and you're paying for a blue tick because you think you're really cool, then you're already a prick. So I don't know.
So
I had a lot to say there. Sorry,
no, it's okay. I did pay for a blue tick for about 3 or 4 months because
lame.
I'm a hex worker. Is there a way we can say that? I do adult content, and initially I did notice the algorithmic bump, right? But then I swear there is something going on where it's like, and I don't have any proof of this, so I'm just absolutely wildly speculating here. Then I got the hardest shadow ban I have ever got in my entire time on Twitter. I used to have posts that would get, a couple hundred to a couple thousand likes pretty regularly, and I was getting like less than 15 likes per post for a couple of months. So I I canceled my Twitter Blue subscription, and I've recently got actually back out of the shadow ban, and I'm having like my regular engagement, which is fine. It's a weird place because, like, as an adult content creator, there's almost nowhere where I can actively hunt for new customers that isn't Twitter. Reddit works, but Reddit requires you to actively respond to the replies to your posts and, like, pretend that I'm posting there because I just love sharing my body with a bunch of strangers on Reddit, and not like because I'm running a business and it's financially viable, like a good decision for me to do that. Twitter, I get to be legit. Like, this is a business. This is why I'm posting this. If you like it, go here. If you don't, whatever. It's really difficult. I don't know what I'm going to do if Twitter goes under, because I don't have clout on other platforms the same way. And that probably will hurt me, which is part of the reason why I'm starting my new reptile breeding business with my partner, because that is going to be massively helpful for me, and it's something I love. Totally besides the point. But yeah, I think it's kind of similar to Hogwarts Legacy, where it's kind of like, if you aren't dependent upon Twitter for your financial income or for your activism or for your political campaigning, I think it's probably a good thing if you want to be like, I'm going to protest and get rid of it. But also, it is very much like a social square of the internet, and was long before Elon took it over. And I don't necessarily judge people if that is like a primary place they're getting social interaction or running, or like all those other things I just mentioned, for them staying on board. And I think, I don't know, as long as you're continuing to use your alleged free speech rights to, do good things with the platform, then I think that's probably okay. But yeah, it's definitely a little morally complex, I think.
Yeah, my partner is like straight up, and then not just because of trans issues, but she's like, if you just having a Twitter account is supporting Elon Musk, and you need to get off there. Like, that's kind of the discussion we have. So it's very complex for a lot of reasons.
I think part of the reason I have issues with arguments like that is like, yes, that is true. Being on Twitter supports Elon Musk, but it's almost impossible. I know people, I'm so afraid of opening this can of worms, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's like the saying, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Like everything you do, you can trace back to some sort of ethical, moral injustice, just about, at least in, America and other Western countries like that. Like, did I get that right? I always have my directions wrong.
All the social medias are owned by billionaire shitheads.
Right. Like, I think it's pretty hard to avoid doing anything in today's world it's hard to engage in almost anything in today's world without causing some sort of like measurable harm on some community somewhere, which is why, like with Hogwarts Legacy, I'm like, look, if you have the gumption to say, I like this, but I don't want to play it, cool, do that. That's a good thing. But if you also are like, the world's shit, and this is a thing that I really enjoy and would bring me just like a smidge bit of happiness for like a couple of hours while I'm playing, I'm like, don't hate on yourself or feel like you are the reason trans people are losing rights because you played fucking Hogwarts Legacy. Right. I think that's stupid.
And like, if you're worried about accidentally supporting Elon, just write abuse at him every single day.
Okay. I've thought about that. Yeah. And you're a super follow for me too, Katie, just so you know, like I really do appreciate the information I get on Twitter. Or like you and several other people, like where I just try to get notifications from it is really useful, I think, and it's really hard to have these conversations with people that are also socially minded, and everyone wants to change something, and I don't know if we have any power to change anything, but I guess not talking about it. The call screener actually said this. It's like not being involved in the conversation is actually not an option for them. So
I think that's a good way to think about it. Well, thank you for the topic,
Shout
Robert.
out to our call screener, by the way.
Yes, Critical Cupcake. We love you. So hopefully that was. Thank you for the discussion. I think it is an interesting topic, and I do enjoy kind of going into this stuff and. It's a morally gray thing, and I think it's good that we keep the conversation going on it, so people are always actively thinking about it and not taking for granted, the ways that their actions or the things that they do might be contributing to something that they wouldn't if they otherwise knew about it. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Cool. Thanks, Robert. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye. Thanks.
All right, we got two other callers. Are you able to hit them both, or are you like, I need to get out of here?
It might be good if we didn't drag the show on forever.
I'm not sure if I
do one of them.
Okay, you pick.
I'm very sorry to the person who I don't pick.
Nah, you suck, and we don't want to talk to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's do number 95.
Okay.
That's okay.
All right, so
very
we're going
sorry
to talk
to Polo in Philadelphia. Call back another time. I'm sorry you waited so long. I just need to go to bed.
Yeah. I would like to talk about that topic, though, so call in another time, Polo. Again, I'm so sorry. The screener, if you could talk to Polo. But until then, we've got May, her in California. May, you are on Transatlantic on the line. What's going on?
Oh, my gosh. Hi. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. Some of those conversations were, like, so wild. I actually, so anyway, this would have actually been an interesting segue from me, who called earlier, because I was here for the whole show.
Cool.
Yeah, so I started HRT 2 years ago, and I've been working on my voice training, and I just recovered from facial feminization surgery, so I'm taking the steps I need to. And I guess I wanted to talk about, I started the process with my insurance for seeking bottom surgery for SRS. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about it for quite a while in terms of, what, is this something that I actually want, like, within myself? And I just wanted to get both of you ladies' opinion on, like, how would you know you're ready on the inside? Like, not just, I really want this surgery, but what kind of psychological or what kind of mind space in your mind do you think would be the right call for that? Because I'm still debating it.
Sure.
I'm sorry, it's like the deepest topic at like the last moment.
No, I think
I
it's
know
a
you
good
have to.
topic.
You have to go to bed.
I think there's a kind of a trap that people fall in, and I haven't had bottom surgery yet, so take this with that in mind, I guess. But I think there's a trap people fall in minded with this notion of like reaching this point of like certainty, like I am absolutely ready, I am absolutely certain, and I think it's completely unrealistic. In my opinion, I think it's worth like remembering that like even in cases where when we're looking at like these papers on regret rates and stuff like that, something that they talk about in a few of those instances are the different types of regret. Because just because somebody has a complication or maybe isn't super happy with the results doesn't mean that they didn't want the surgery. A lot of those people, and I don't have the exact numbers, so I'm not going to say that, but I'm almost certain I remember the number being more than half of those people who had issues with their surgery still said that they are happier that they got it than that they didn't get it. Like, I think you can learn, even if things are not quite what you expected, not quite what you wanted, you can learn to feel happy and okay, even if things don't go exactly according to your best expectations. But it's more than likely that they are going to go well
or better.
or better. And so you're kind of in a situation where it's like the odds of you having a bad circumstance where you really are regretting it and it's like you're so miserable are extraordinarily low when compared with all the other outcomes. It's not just I love it or I am so depressed, this is the worst thing I've ever done. There is a huge spectrum of feelings you can have after the fact in the middle. And if anything else will help, if you just had facial feminization surgery, you've been on HRT for a couple years, for me, I had a lot of hesitation about getting FFS. But every time I took a step in transition, I felt significantly better about myself and significantly.
Oh, absolutely! I noticed that.
So if you're
after recovering from FFS myself, it's like, oh well, this is actually way better. Even though, like the week before, I was like terrified.
Yeah, me too. Standard.
It just feels like that step is so much bigger.
It is. It is a big step,
than
and it's
FFS, right? Because I mean, I may have spent 3 days in hospital, like high on opioids or whatever pain meds because it hurt so bad, and I was under for 12 hours.
Probably be a little longer than that.
It feels grander.
Yeah.
Well, like it is and it isn't, because in the physical sense, like GRS is more brutal than FFS for sure. Like I went to a gig after like 14 days in FFS, and I couldn't sit on a chair for like 3 months after GRS. So they are physically very different. But at the same time, like, I don't know, most people I talk to see my face. Very few people I talk to see my genitals. Like, I do use them for things, they've got 2 key uses in particular. But like, it's not a huge thing, whereas your face is such a big deal. And if that had been something you regretted or something that went wrong or something, then, there's nothing you can do with it. Every single time you go out the house, every single time, you have to do a video call or a meeting at work, like people are going to know, and it's going to be a reminder. You have to look in the mirror every single day. So in that sense, I don't know. I guess it's bigger in some senses, but not necessarily in all of them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I kind of found, like, I totally agree with Arden that I'm the kind of person who's never sure of anything, and they're like, if I had to wait until I was sure, I still wouldn't have started HRT. And I just had to get to the point where I'm like, well, you know what? I'm 95%, 99% sure. I read all the stats. I know what the risks are. I look at my own history of wanting this, and I just have to jump the last bit and roll the dice, really. I mean, there's a chance you could die on the operating table. It's just a surgery. Sometimes that happens to people, and that is just something you have to factor in. And I would say that would be the key part for me of knowing when you're ready for this, is just making sure you understand everything, making sure that you're like, well, statistically, and looking at my own history, there is like a 99.5% chance, 199 out of 200 chance that this is going to make my life significantly better, or at least partially better. And there's a small chance it's going to make it worse. And these are the ways in which it could make it worse. And once you like come to terms with that, you don't necessarily like. There are some things that could go wrong in surgery. Maybe you could die, and you're probably never going to be okay with that. And if that happens,
well, I mean, you could die like walking, crossing the road, right?
You could.
So like, it's probably not worth like. That's how I got through the FFS. It's like, well, a billion things could happen to you, like in your day-to-day life, like. And there's no sense in worrying about like every single possible thing that might possibly happen sometime, just because like you'd be sitting there worrying all day and you wouldn't move, right? So I guess that's like my mindset when it came to FFS. But yeah, of course.
Yeah, you don't want to go in blind. You need to know what the possible complications are and what that means for your life going forwards, but not to once you look at the odds. If it was like 50% chance that you were going to have something terrible. Then maybe don't just be like, oh, well, I'll just ignore them. But like when we know that various things are so low, surgeon, and I would also recommend talking to other women who have been to the same surgeon, because some surgeons are garbage, or some are just garbage. And some will, there was one person who was known as the Butcher of Bangkok for a while, who just did like super cheap surgeries and had a really high regret rate, and that's the kind of thing you need to also be ready for. But when it comes to like, are you ready in a kind of like spiritual sense, or however you want to say it, like you just got to jump once you're close enough.
It was just like FFS, really. It's just when you hear all the details about like, oh, the dilating is so painful and the recovery and the catheter, it starts to freak you out a little bit. But like, so it's just a little bit sort of, I don't want to say hesitancy, because I feel like I need it to be myself and to accept myself and to like be okay in my body, because right now I'm not. And
another way
it's wild because
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just saying, like,
no, you can say
about all like the dilating catheter and stuff. Like, it's pretty brutal at some points. Like, there was I had some bad times, but at the same time, do you really want to be like 85 years old and be like, you know what, I never had GRS because I was worried about catheter?
Now's the time.
Like, come on, mate. It's horrible. It's like, in order to feel better, you have to queue up and get punched in the face every day for a whole month. But like, okay, then it's done.
It's better like than getting punched in the face for the rest of your life, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah. That's it. That's what you should go away with this. 1 month of punches is better than one life.
Thank you for giving your opinions and feedback on this. It's just like, it feels good to like talk to somebody else instead of just like wallowing in your own head for like however long. Oh, and by the way, I saw members in chat complimenting your voice. Thank you so much. It's something that I'm insecure about, so thank you.
I mean, your voice is brilliant. You're making me feel insecure.
Well, thank you. I had a suggestion. You should try and get Aron Reed as a guest on the show.
I don't know if I know who that is.
Yeah, Aron in the morning.
Oh, Aron Reed. Yeah. We had her on.
Yeah, we've had her.
Did you? I feel like she'd be great, especially with all the spicy types that you get on this show. It would be fun.
She's a busy person, though. She was hard to get a hold of, and I get it. She does a lot more than way more than I do on activism, so I understand why. But yeah, but we'd love to have her back. She's great. I love her work. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. The study that I mentioned, I saw because she linked it and posted it, because she's always super on top of that stuff. So definitely.
Oh, she is. She's like the best. Well, thank you I don't want to take more of your time. I know Katy's like probably falling asleep at her desk, but yeah, I just really needed to talk to somebody because I was like wallowing in my own head for too long. So I'm like, you know what? There's that show I watch sometimes. I love both of you. Yeah. I love everyone at the line. So, and I'll definitely be calling back.
Cool. Thank you so much, May. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Good luck with that.
Oh, thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All Alrighty.
Joe, good luck, calls.
Have more super chats than we've had in quite a while. So
that's
we're
because
going
Spicy
to...
Arden came out. People like Spicy Arden.
Yeah, there was actually, I have something I'm going to respond to, but I'll respond when it comes up because I saw somebody made a super chat about it. Right, real quick, before we start, I have a secret weapon to get more favor in the votes. We had baby crust geckos.
Oh no.
And can you see?
Oh,
hold on. It's my automatic blurring thing. Look at how tiny they are compared to my hand. They are like not even the length of my finger, and they were so cute. And they ate off the tongs. They ate their little fruit smoothie. Ooh. I scared one of them awake, so I'm gonna put the cap back on. But that's my secret weapon for Team Geckos. Cute baby geckos. You should go to the... This is
my secret weapon. Raichu, the Pokemon card, but with a green background, so it's blurred out.
Nice.
It's cute though.
All right, let's move to super chats. All right. First one's you deciding.
$10 from Dark Matter, Celtic Frost, or Triptychon. Katie, how's your leg?
Did you hurt your leg at a...
Oh, I did hurt my leg.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Triptychon. I really like... I saw Triptychon live a couple of times. Never seen Celtic Frost, obviously. It's just really good. Tommy G's a bit of a... He's a grumpy man, but it's a good vibe. It's a good vibe. My leg is 99% better. I climbed up some mountains in Wales, and on the descent of the third mountain, my leg was like, what? Now your knee doesn't work. And it was just, I had to I was like locked and I had to limp.
Yeah, definitely better. We've got 123 Shek Coronas from Naresh. Cat update. Moved Michelle's brother here and named him Merlin, both to continue the M naming convention, but also because my dog is Artie, which kind of sounds like a nickname for King Arthur. # Team Arden.
Amazing.
Nice.
That's thanks, Naresh. We always need cat updates. If anyone else has any cat updates, now's the time. I just want to be updated on all your cats. $4.99 from Louise Richardson. # Team Arden. Oh, Louise. Nice. Always 10 degrees cooler here in Galveston. Is it? Well, that's unfortunate because it's actually nice here. I like it when it's too hot, though it is pretty sweaty, to be honest.
I can't handle the heat. We're finally gonna get below 90 degrees next week. Yeah, it's normally not this hot for this long though. This was record breaking, like of all time, consistently high temperatures. So far, yeah. Next year, I'm sure will be another record breaking one. 20 pounds from Jackie Greenland. Is it too far? Wait, sorry. It is far too hot. So we've turned the hot tub down and I'm watching from a cool pool. I was glad to see last week that the cricket hasn't succumbed to the trans panic, which is good. Sorry, Arden, got a vote for the home team. # Team Katie. I don't know what the cricket reference is for.
I guess that the World Cricket Club Society, whatever, has decided not to ban trans women. That's what I would guess.
Nice.
But I didn't follow it.
They're ahead of... They get a cookie for deciding to not be awful.
Yeah, mate. A cool tub sounds pretty good. $17.01 from Alyssa. Stats don't lie, but people do. Speaking of fake units, I was quite shocked when I learned of the existence of kilofoot. Why? On a more positive note, happy early Star Trek Day, September the 8th.
Nice.
Cool. I don't know why it's Star Trek Day, but okay, I'll do the little hand out of respect for Jesse.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if... I don't think I've ever heard of any application of kilofoot, but it doesn't surprise me that it might exist. $9.99 from Stacy, 1904. Thank you both for having this show. I recommended it to a friend who was struggling with her trans child, and it's been a huge help. Here's some Happy Meal money for Katie. Should I go fuck yourself, Jimmy? Thank you so much. I'm glad it was helpful.
Very kind.
That is like the best thing.
$5 from Jason Jones. # Team Katie. Unless Arden says she will be breeding hognose snakes. Oh no! You do,
I am.
She already is. I've already seen one.
To be fair, technically all of our hognose snakes are too young to be breeding because...
Oh, so technically it doesn't count. Okay, that's a point for me.
The thing
Then
is,
Arden retained my loyal broke Oklahoma henchmanship for another week.
we
Love you.
with our ball pythons, we bought adults who could breed, but with hognoses, if somebody's selling an adult, usually it's not going to be a breeder. It's going to be pet only because they're extremely valuable. So when someone's selling one, it's kind of like suspicious. Yeah, hognoses they're amazing. You should get bit by one. It's a good time.
They do have a funny name.
123 check coronas again from Naresh. For a moment, I got Babylon B mixed up with Babylon 5 and was really confused. And I haven't even watched Babylon 5 yet. Nice.
Babylon 5 is definitely funnier, both intentionally and unintentionally, than the Babylon B. 666 from Mike B. I had a dream where Jimmy accepted that he is an exceptional human who doesn't need to apologize for his existence. Then he jimmied his Jimmy.
Oh dear.
I'm sure we've all dreamed about Jimmy jimmying his Jimmy at one point in our lives.
Certainly. Haven't we all? $10 to Melissa from X Hamster in 2019. I think porn is an accurate portrayal of real world sex. Very religious people are 2 times more likely to agree than average and 4 times more likely than atheist agnostic people. Like, oh my God, what the fuck? Oh, to that. I was just going to say, I was like, I don't agree with that quote at all.
Yeah, neither do I.
And then I was like, oh, okay, that's why. I get it. Yeah, no, porn is... People have to learn that, like, just because somebody's into something as, like, a fantasy doesn't necessarily mean they, like, deeply believe in those things or, like, that they want that in actual life. Like, yeah.
Sorry, I mean, I guess if you're trapped into some kind of super strict rules and stuff, you might, like, a lot of porn is like that, isn't it? I mean, well, it's like acted out bullshit, and maybe that's what people...
Well, another big part of porn is what is bad and naughty and that you're not supposed to do, but that you just, like, you have to give into because the desire is so strong. That is always going to make things more tantalized, titillating to people. And for religious people, that definitely hits home in a lot of areas. But yes.
120 Czech crowns from Pedro Glosser. Can't watch now, but hearing a smarter, more interesting, and more competent person than I am read something I wrote will make my tomorrow. Sorry, I had to read out then.
$9.99 from Ramona. I've been off my progesterone for about 3 weeks because of stupid stuff happening with my pharmacy, and I think I may have fixed the problem today. Sending good vibes to everyone. # Team Katy. # Team Meds. Yeah, I've had that happen a couple of times. It's very frustrating. I'm sorry it's happening to you.
For both reasons, because it makes me more anxious not having progesterone. So, yeah. 123 from Naresh again. Thank you very much, Naresh. Sorry about Pedro Glosser. He can't watch because he has too many women in the basement that need forcing to make sandwiches. If only they worked harder, he could watch. What?
So Naresh and Pedro had a dueling debate about giving the entire Czech GDP to the transatlantic in their super chats last time. So now I think there's just a continuation of their rivalry.
Okay.
499 from Mustafa Jav. Now that I think about it, a lot of Muslim girls use anime characters for social media profile photos. That may or may not be. I've no clue about the rates at which different groups use anime profile pictures.
But if that's where they feel freest, then good for them. It's for me. I was telling someone to call in because they were arguing in the chat and were being too cowardly to call in.
I saw a lot of people calling them out. I didn't see what they were saying, but that's okay.
They were having concerns about trans kids.
Oh, I'm sure they were very concerned. Another 120 Czech coronas from Naresh. You are not sly, Sliger.
But they are... whatever that means. $9.99 from Jayla Mack. Love and appreciate both of you, Arden. Suggestions for busy mum in the USA who is also a trans woman to help fight trans disinformation. Perhaps groups to support.
To specifically fight disinformation? I mean, I think you can do that from any Twitter account and just regular posting, following other people. They'll follow you back and eventually gain traction. But I I'm not a social media manager. I don't know what the right techniques are. I think if you want to like make a material difference in the trans people's lives where you are, I'm sure there are local places you could volunteer at that would probably be very grateful for your help. There are always activist groups that are like organizing at the state house and protesting things. Those groups exist in every major city, in every state. So just look around on like Facebook or Meetup or the internet, just around, and I'm sure you'll find ways that you could get involved in ways that are comfortable for you and make sense for you. 123 Czech crowns again from Naresh. This is the one I was gonna say. Naresh, I love you, but Arden channeling her Matt. People say this every time I get fired up, and Matt and I have talked about eventually someone's gonna say something like this. Here's the thing. The reason Matt and I are compatible as people is because we both have similar tendencies. I have said so many times on the show, I'm not interested in hand-walking people out of bigotry. I'm not interested in appearing nice to everyone. I don't care about feeling nice or about, sitting still and looking pretty kind of thing. Fuck that. I'm going to say how I feel, and I'm going to respond to people if they're being dishonest and annoying and spewing out lots of bullshit. I'm going to stop them and interrupt them. And if they're cry about me cursing, I'm going to yell at them. And that's not because I'm associated with Matt. I was already this way. And we just happened to get along well as a result.
Matt has been channeling his inner Arden this whole time.
That's what's been happening. But I appreciate the donation anyway. Just thoughts and feelings about it. I'm like...
Thanks, Naresh, but fuck off.
Yeah. Exactly.
We love you, really. $5 from Laser Lizard. Are you breeding any laser lizards, Arden? Hashtag Team Spicy Arden. You go, girl. Make them cower.
We are breeding laser lizards, but his profile picture is a red-eyed crocodile skink, and I love them, and I really, really want them, but they're kind of fragile, so I'm like, that would be if I had more time. Sorry.
Before you move on, when you have like a school picture and they bring their like little blurred background thing and the umbrellas that have the flashlights on them, and then they make you like you and your brother or something sit in some weird arm up position like this, and they have some like weird wooden thing. That is what that skink is doing. Look, he's got the blurred background, he's got the little weird wooden thing. That's a school photo.
It is. I want to know what school he's going to. I want to go. Anyway. Oh, sorry, this one's me. 200 Czech crowns from Naresh. Just saw a 10-hour video essay on the Wizarding World franchise, and now I wish they could just take it and make some movies about actually fixing it all to turn it into a world that uses magic to make everyone prosper. Yeah, I think you could do a lot of really good stuff with the franchise. I mean, I don't know how the rights are tied up. It might be too difficult to do something like that. But theoretically, there is the potential to do some really cool stuff with the franchise that could, be a really positive message and kind of undermine J.K. Rowling's bigotry, but because I know it's taken a big hit to the franchise over her bigotry, but I think it's also just that Harry Potter's an older franchise now, and people just aren't as interested as they used to be.
70 years after J.K. Rowling dies is when you'll be able to do what the hell you want with Harry Potter. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they sign off the rights, though, to, a company, right? So, maybe that company could do something if they wanted to.
Oh, yeah, they could do it before. But just saying, trans people in, I don't know, when J.K. Rowling's probably got 30 years left in her, hasn't she? Trans people in the year 21, 23, when you're watching these old episodes back, and me and Arden are
free
the
idea.
First two queens of Europe and America, respectively, I'm glad that you are ruining this franchise and running it into the ground with the most ridiculous LGBT stuff.
Oh, also, I forgot to close out Colin's studio. Let me do that real quick.
God's sake, worst producer ever. Hashtag worst producer ever.
I know. All right, we've got $5 from Con Min Nguyen. Oh, I know we always fuck that up, and I always feel so embarrassed and like a big dumb fucking idiot when I try to pronounce it wrong.
I'm in.
This has been also Min. Did you used to call AXP and reality shows all the time? Because I feel like I remember your name.
I feel like I recognize your name as well.
Thank you for taking my call. Hashtag Team Arden. This time, since she had to endure a mouthful of gynandromorphophilia, hashtag Team Katy for next time for autogynephilia. We'll each get the vote. Since your name followed autogynephilia, I feel like you deserve a vote. There we go.
$5 from Samantha Shepherd. The US is a grim place for trans people right now, and it's likely to get worse. So I fled to the Netherlands. Keep up the good fight. It's needed. The Netherlands is having their own little gender critical fiasco at the moment, but it's not as bad as like the UK or the US. But we'll see.
Is this over the now you can only get access to treatment through like a trial kind of situation? Is that what they're?
No, that's Norway.
Oh, okay.
Netherlands is where Netherlands is the first place they did trans healthcare for kids in the 90s.
Oh, yes, right. Yes.
Netherlands is generally like ahead on most social issues. It's a very culturally diverse and liberal place.
Right.
And they're all super tall.
Right. $20 from Ross Settles came for the politics, and Arden checked that off for me. Thanks. On a side note, I too try to find balance between separating the art from the artist. Yeah, I'm not the most politically savvy. I talk about this stuff a lot, so I feel like maybe I sort of know what I'm talking about, but I definitely am not as educated as other people. So I don't want people like to reflect on me as like a person to listen to on politics, but I certainly have thoughts, so I won't be afraid to share. Yeah, I for me, it's less about separating the art from the artist, and it's more of like, there are bigger fights, bigger fish to fry kind of a situation, you know? Although I think that's maybe a valid argument.
123 from Naresh again. If only someone separated the artist from the money and relevance. Yeah.
Right. Particular artists.
Like I feel bad for people who like the bands I do, you know, like flipping Pantera and stuff. Pretty bad. But you could be a fan of the Sex Pistols, and you could be watching anti-establishment punk hero, whatever his name is, John Lydon, selling butter and getting angry at immigrants. Like, probably got to be the most cringe. Separate the artist from the art that's ever been.
$20 from Get Stanfield. Just for the line. Love this channel. Keep going. Thank you so much, Get. I appreciate it. We are definitely the best show on the line.
Man, Get's a funny name for two reasons. I don't know what it means in the US, but in the UK, it's like an insult. You old Git. But also, I spend way too much time in programming, and when I saw Git Stanfield, my first response was, that's not a Git command. Lame. $4.99 from Claire. Hashtag Team Arden, because I'm hopelessly devoted to
Harry Potter.
Hewlett Packard. Oh, okay. I can't help feel the way I feel.
No, I get it, Claire. I'm not like a super Harry Potter fan, but I read all the books. I watched all the movies. I liked the books. Back before all this stuff started going on, I went to the Universal Studios thing, and Matt and I went, it was like a couple years ago or whatever. I like the Harry Potter franchise. There are definitely problems with it. There are so many valid critiques of it. That's not I'm not going to like defend it brain dead, but yeah, I you know, whatever. It's neat. It's cool.
£5 from Jack KV. Thank you very much, Jack. That's very kind. Shred.
£5 from Samantha Patrick. Hashtag Team Arden. Thank you so much. That's very kind.
Samantha. Traitor. $5 from Marcy S. Thoughts on ever going on Joe Rogan e-review and countering some of his transphobia? Hashtag Team Arden. Love mayo. Disgusting slime. I don't know. I know that going on would be it'd be a bad time, in that all of the trans people I know and respect would be like, what the fuck are you doing? And you would then be like a target for the most ridiculous levels of abuse and hate. Like, I've gone on Talk TV a few times with some UK right-wing TV channel, and the abuse, like, there's like overnight, like the second they post their clip, the amount of abuse I get goes up by like tenfold for like 3 days. Joe Rogan, like, that's even bigger with even dumber people, isn't it? So, but at the same time, I do just wonder if just going on and providing the counter narrative would get a few people to like go down the rabbit hole a bit and start well, to come out of the rabbit hole would probably be a better way of explaining it, and stop being such a conspiracy theorist twat. And like, maybe they would be like, oh, maybe trans people are all right. And I do think that if anyone could do it, I could do it. I don't know. But the other thing is, I'm kind of going through a CBA phase at the moment. Like, do I really want to do that? Do I really care when? I mean, I think it's because it's summer, and like I get invited to go on some spicy radio show or something. And I'm like, I could just go and sit outside. Like, it's a nicer time, isn't it? Like, if I knew, maybe Joe Rogan is so big that it would be worthwhile to take the hit on my own reputation amongst my peers and also on my safety and sanity. But I don't know. You'd have to do a good job. Joe Rogan, maybe something like Tucker Carlson, no, because I think you have to be in a situation where they're not gonna edit you, and they're not just gonna do 1 second clips, and they're not specifically trying to trip you up. Like Matt Walsh would be a waste of time. That'd be a stupid thing to go on because he's intentionally trying to. He's like openly dishonest about what he would do. You know, he's gonna edit it out, and he's gonna, just do a 1 second clip, and he's going to target you personally and all this kind of stuff. Joe Rogan is a transphobic shithead, but I still think he maybe would take you out. I don't know.
I think I'm very similar. I think Joe Rogan's more of a stupid meathead and less like a Matt Walsh about the topic, and I think maybe there could be value in it, but also I think it's really important that we try to learn to not make a big deal out of when big transphobes say stupid and incorrect things, and to just be like, cool, you're allowed to be very publicly stupid and wrong. You have that right, and I'm not going to stress myself out about it.
Provide the counter information, I think.
Sure.
That's important. So many people believe Joe Rogan.
Nothing I'm saying is against that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't necessarily think the value in countering their arguments necessarily has to be in responding to Joe Rogan as much as just spreading the right information. But I can appreciate that he has more reach, and so maybe there's, Anyway,
cool, Moth is back.
120 Czech crowns from Naresh again for any cat picks.
Thank you, Naresh.
Support the line on Patreon and find me on the Discord server, #Team Arden. Thank you. I wish I could show off my cat, but she's not a good girl. I love her. She's an asshole. She shuts off the computer. She bites my feet. I would not be able to produce and host a show with her in here.
I like her. She's #Team Katy. £5 from Faye. Katy/Arden. Any tips on getting stuff done when you lack motivation? Nice to see Katy back on the show. But #Team Ardy. Ardy? I don't know why I said that.
Ardy.
Now. Sorry, Ardy. Ardy. #Team Arden, because Snake Lady is better than Cat Lady. Well, I was going to answer your question there, but I'm not going to now, am I?
I mean, it depends what the reason for your lack of motivation is. Like, I suffer with like clinical depression, so I take medication to help me with that. But like, it really depends. I think usually starting things is the hardest part, and once you get started, the momentum is enough to keep you doing things. But yeah, that first part is really difficult, and I think I don't know how to do it other than like just do it. But that's not really helpful advice.
My pro tip is go and listen to the song I Will Be Heard by Hatebreed. And if that's the start of that don't get you going, then just go back to bed.
$5 from Brian Ortiz. As the father of an amazing trans young man, I'm very thankful to all of you for the info and support. Go team, both of you. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. Also,
thank you.
Cool. Hi to your little kiddo.
£5 from Samantha Patrick. #Team Katy. I was wondering if you've heard of the book, The Transgender Issue, An Argument for Justice by Sean Fay. Yes, I have, and I've read it, and it's very good, and I recommend it. And Sean is a nice person. And one time we met in the street, and it was really awkward because maybe she was on a date, and I think maybe I was on a date. I don't know. And it was just like, oh, I know you from the internet. I hope you're good, bye. And it was a bit cringe, but she's a nice person, and read her book. It's good.
Cool. Love book racks. $5 from Laser Lizard again. Baby geckos is totally worth an extra $5. Hashtag Team Geckos. Thank you. Crested geckos are rapidly becoming one of my favorite animals. They're so cute and they're so wild. And even though they jump at my face every time I hold them, it still scares me. It's amazing. It's such a good time. They
I got a
feel
fucking
so
cool
weird.
animal fact, by the way.
Oh, give
Maybe
it
at the end. Or should I do it now?
Okay.
Oh, right, I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a type of frog, right, that lives in the burrows of tarantulas, and the tarantula is a lot bigger than it. And sometimes like 3 or 4 frogs will live in the burrow of the tarantula. And the tarantula, it's like a mutual beneficial relationship because the tarantula protects the frog because the tarantula is like the big predator in the area, and the frog eats ants which eat the eggs of the tarantula. So the tarantula basically has these frogs like a pet. So it has like pet frogs.
Amazing.
But the frog's even cooler for 2 extra reasons. One is its method of hunting is sitting still with its mouth open and hoping that ants just walk in, which they do. Like, it doesn't chase or jump or anything. It's just like by the eggs of the tarantula. And
That's
apparently they
awesome.
only ever go like 2 or 3 centimeters outside the burrow and sit there with their mouth open and then just go back in. Another cool thing is their only natural predator, like their big main predator, like when they're tadpoles and stuff, is a type of freshwater crab. Like, what kind of ridiculous relationship you have where you're running from giant crabs and living in the burrow of giant spiders? This is a good time.
I love the animal kingdom.
Cool
Ecosystems
animal.
are so
Yeah.
interesting. This one's you.
€5 from Thomas Donald Jacobs. Best show on the line. Thank you very much. Love you all, even the token sis. Do we have one of them anymore? I mean, no one's heard of Scene from Jimmy in a long time, and there's a reason for that. Like, good luck
Ages.
finding all the pieces. Hashtag Team Arden, because my gecko babies. My hissers just had babies too, and they're adorable.
Ooh.
Give me cockroaches.
Yeah, I was gonna say it must be cockroaches, but I'm not as much. We raise dubia roaches because they're good food source for so many of our animals, but I've not gotten used to it yet. The worst thing for me, I realize they can't bite and they're not really worth being afraid of. But when I open the enclosure and there are like hundreds of them on one egg carton, the sound of all of their tiny feet on each other's backs is actually loud. And that somehow freaks me out. I'm like,
Cute,
your
though.
legs don't make a sound on any other surface, but when there's thousands of you together, they do. It's wild. We've got $5 from Panda. Gonna have to go with hashtag Team Raichu this week. Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Yes, mate. Thank you very much. $9.99 from John Doan. Thank you very much, John.
$5 from Skeptics and Scoundrels. Hey, Eric. Thanks for the informative stream. It's so hard to choose a side, so hashtag Team Gecko. You chose correctly.
Hard
you
to
did
choose
well.
the side, so I'm just going to choose Arden. She's winning, guys. Come on.
Clearly
put it
the
back.
best.
Where's Team Katy? I don't want to write a poem about Arden.
I don't think we're anywhere near 25 votes, but
Oh, no.
we had a lot of super chats today. They just were almost none of them were votes. Like a very small portion of them were. Listen to.
Oh, 120 from Naresh. The Arden channeling her Matt comment was a joke mostly. Plus, I heard someone was channeling their Jimmy recently. That's if you get caught doing that in public, you might get a fine. Anyway, Team Arden as an apology, and I will just go Jimmy myself.
I appreciate the apology. It wasn't necessary, but it is well received. Thank you. I kind of got that it was a joke. I was waiting for someone to make that comment. I knew it was going to come eventually. And so I was like, I had thoughts about it before it even got here. Another $9.99 from John Doan or Joanne, whatever. Sorry. Hello, ladies. I'm glad to see the black metal queen. Katy is the shit. Arden is pretty cool too. I will call in someday relocating my plants. If you guys ever hit me up, I will give you some plant love. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what that means. Thank you.
€5 from Sampav, Malhotra. Missed the talks, but just here to support Katy and Arden. Big lol. Lots of love. Hashtag Team Katy. Thank you very much, Sampav.
Nice. And then we've got $10 from Mo Scoville. Hey, Mo. We're all just frogs looking for our tarantulas. # Team Arden. Thank you so much, Mo. Mo's good people. All right. So that was all of our super chats for the day. So, of course, I want to say thanks again to Amber. Thank you for call screening Critical Cupcake. We love you. You are amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of our mods. I see Eric, Skeptics and Scoundrels is here. Cookies, of course, doing so much work. Alyssa. I think I saw Dylan earlier and maybe even Stephanie. So thank you guys for showing up. We appreciate what you do. And thank you to the viewers. Of course, without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. Also, I see $5 from Charlie Carrot. Thank you. # Team Raichu. Katie gets a point, even though it still only makes her 8 to my 13. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week. I think Katie is confirmed on, but I don't know if we have the alternate on. Ooh, Raikou is one of my favorite legendaries. So pretty.
Is it? Raiku's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye. If I can do a riff. Yeah, boy.
Oh shit, I gotta hit the button.